In this tutorial, we will look at the properties of clips, which are the basic building blocks used within Live. To open up Clip View, double-click on any clip, and this display will open up in the bottom part of the screen. There are two types of clips available: MIDI and audio clips. MIDI clips contain MIDI data for playing MIDI instruments, and audio clips play audio files. Each of the sections of Clip View can be opened or shut using the buttons on the bottom left. L opens the launch section, E opens the envelope section, and the middle icon opens the sample section. With MIDI files, this icon opens up the notes section instead. The launch section is covered in the launching clips and follow actions section, and envelopes is covered in its own tutorial on envelopes, so I'll shut both of these for now. This button here disables and enables the clip. When I press it, you can see that the play button disappears and it's replaced by a stop button. This is a quick and easy way of disabling the clip without having to delete it, in case you wish to use it again later. The same option is available in the right-click menu, marked Activate or Deactivate Clip. The clip name can be changed by clicking on the name, or by right-clicking and selecting Rename. I would recommend simplifying names so that they're clear and concise to make recognition easy when you're playing your set. It's also helpful to include any appropriate further information. This may include things like the BPM and the key of the sample. For example, this clip's long name can be changed to 5B, Charles Watts, Express Yourself, 93. The 5B refers to the code for what key the sample is in, and we examine this fully in the tutorial on advanced mixing skills. The next box gives you the option to change the colour of the sample. This can also be done through the right-click menu. It's useful to come up with a logical way to colour code all the clips that you use. For example, this could be making all the percussion loops yellow and all the breaks tracks blue. If the clip is not in 4/4 tempo, then it can be adjusted in the time signature box. The groove setting allows you to modify the timing and feel of clips in your set. You can import grooves from Live's library in the browser and drop them straight onto a clip, and this will apply the timing of that groove to your clip. Let's play this drum loop here. I'll now drag a groove onto it. You can hear how the timing has changed. You can quickly try out different grooves by pressing the Groove Hot Swap button and then double click on each groove that you want to try. Once you have found a groove that you like, you can write those groove parameters to the clip by pressing the Commit button. For audio clips, this will set the warp markers. For MIDI clips, it will adjust the notes accordingly. When you've used a groove, it will be available to you in the groove pool, which can be opened by clicking on this icon here. Grooves can be further edited from the groove pool. Below the clip groove are two controls that allow you to nudge forwards or backwards within a clip. The clip will be moved by the setting of the global quantize, which is here. This function can be really helpful whilst mixing, allowing you to skip backwards and forwards within a clip that is playing. It will be demonstrated in more detail in the advanced mixing skills tutorial. Clicking the edit button will open the audio file in the audio editor that you've selected in Preferences. If you haven't chosen one yet, then it will ask you to do so when you press this button. There are many audio editors available, from free ones such as Audacity, up to professional ones such as SoundForge, which this is, or Bias Peak on the Mac. It's worthwhile finding an audio editor that suits you, as there will often be times when you want to be able to edit audio files. Using an audio editor is designed for when you want to make permanent changes to an audio file. For example, removing the silence at the start and end of a file, or for removing clicks and pops. We look at using an audio editor in detail in its own tutorial. The Save button allows you to save all the functions that you've designated for that audio file into a special file with the extension .asd. This is the file that Live creates each time that it imports an audio file, and in which it saves all necessary information, such as remembering the warp markers, start and end points, and loop information. By pressing save, it ensures that the next time you import this audio file into a project, it will come up with all its current settings. The reverse function creates a reversed copy of the original file. The reversed file is saved in the project folder with the letter R added to the end. Let's hear a reversed version of this drum loop. The high Q button affects the quality of the algorithm used when transposing and pitch shifting samples. I'd recommend always setting this to high quality, unless you find that your computer is struggling. This can then be set by default on the Audio tab in Preferences, with the default SR and pitch conversion setting. The Fade button adds a very quick fade at each end of the clip to allow it to loop seamlessly, without any pops or clicks. I'd recommend leaving this function on for normal use. If you are experiencing dropouts in the sound, then the RAM switch can help by preloading the clip into memory. Check to see if the D button in the right hand corner of the control bar is lighting up to indicate that the hard disk is being overloaded. This function works well with short files, although remember that when the RAM button is pressed, the whole clip will be loaded into the memory. Therefore, with multiple songs being loaded in, you may quickly start to run out of RAM. An alternative way to reduce CPU usage is to choose repitch warp mode instead of complex for some of your tracks. This will free up CPU usage and will sound fine as long as you don't play the repitch sample too far away from its original speed. The transpose knob allows you to change the key of any audio clip so that it matches the key of the project. The knob goes up or down by a semitone at a time, or by 1/100th of a semitone in the detune box. Let's hear this bass line being transposed. The gain slider allows us to adjust the volume of a clip. This is very useful to ensure that all of your tracks and samples play at the right volume relative to each other. Each time you import a new clip, you should check the volume against the tracks already in your set. After a bit of practice, you can generally adjust this just by looking at the visual waveform. However, be careful of boosting the volume too far, as this may start to distort. The next section contains all the controls that relate to warping samples, and these are explained in detail in the section Warp Settings. Each clip has a start and end point that's given a value here in bars, beats and sixteenths. It's easier to understand this by looking at the visual markers on the screen. This marker, with a forward-facing triangle, denotes the start point, and this marker with a backward-facing triangle denotes the end point. You will notice that the areas of the clip that won't play have now become greyed out. The start point enables you to remove all the bits of an audio file that you don't want to hear, cutting straight to the bit that you do want. For example, this track has a couple of seconds silence before it starts. And so I will move the start marker so that it's positioned exactly where the music comes in. To make it easier to work with an audio file, you need to become confident at quickly zooming in and out to the place you're working on. You can zoom in by clicking on the top of the sample display and pulling down when the magnifying glass icon appears. You can zoom back out in the same way by pulling upwards, and also move the screen from left to right. It may also help you to see more clearly by enlarging the waveform, which you can do by clicking on the top of the window and changing it to the size that you want. The loop function works in a similar way, with a numerical value here but there is an easier way to see it, which is this adjustable marker here called the loop brace. I'll move this so that it loops over 2 bars and enable it by pressing the loop button. The clip will now keep repeating these 2 bars until I press stop. You can jump about in audio clips by clicking when the speaker symbol appears either in the lower half of the waveform here or on the top bar here. The size of the jump is quantized by the global quantize setting at the top. If you hold your finger down, it will repeat the same section. Finally, let's clarify for you where each type of clip is saved. MIDI files are reasonably small, and so they're saved within the live set. Audio files, however, are not saved within the live set. Instead, they are simply referenced from wherever they currently are on the hard drive. Therefore, if you ever have to transfer your project to a different computer, you need to make sure that all the audio files are found and moved, as well as the project file. It's also important to know that when you start changing all the various properties relating to audio clips, the original audio file is left unaffected. The only thing that's adjusted is the clip settings, which tells Live how to handle the file. This means there's no problem having multiple clips using the same audio file. This is the end of the section on clip view and audio clips. We return to many of these functions later in the course.